HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I'm helping you get out of your head so that you can truly have it all. Let's do it. Hey everyone, today's episode is truly awesome. It really is one of the most honest, authentic, vulnerable conversations that I've had on the podcast to date. I have my amazing wife with me, and we're talking about relationships. Today's episode is a continuation of a series that I started a few weeks ago about building greater trust and honesty in relationships. And so it really was fitting to have Sarah with me to talk about what we've done in our relationship to really strengthen the trust over the years. Now, we get very, very raw, and we actually end up talking about something that I have not yet brought to the show. I'd been scared. And so there's, you're going to hear some stuff in here that you haven't heard me talk about before. I've flirted with it, but I haven't really gotten into it. And I'm incredibly excited because it really is a new paradigm in how you can relate to yourself, to other people, and to life. So I'm thrilled for you to hear it. Now, there's definitely some adult language and some adult concepts in this episode, so you don't want to listen with young ears in the room. And this one is a bit longer. I think this is probably my longest episode. So, make sure you carve out a proper amount of time to listen to it because you're going to want to listen to the entire thing. Sarah and I really go deep, and I don't know, it's truly great. So I'm very excited for you to listen, and here it is. What's up, everybody? Matthew Bivens here, and welcome to another episode of the Having It All podcast. Today's a big one. Today is an episode that I have had marked on my calendar, and really something that honestly has made me a little bit nervous because the topic we're getting into is incredibly, incredibly intimate. And for this incredibly intimate topic, I have sitting across from me my most intimate of partners, my wife, Sarah. What's going on, Sarah?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great. And I feel a little energetic, like a little charged right now.
I feel it too. So, when something happens, like you're about to drop a vase and it's going to shatter, you get that, like your pores open up and you start to feel a little bit of sweat come into your armpits. I felt that just as you started, as you did the countdown to start recording, and I got the little stomach thing, so yeah. That tells me it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And the reason why I think we're both feeling a little, prickly, excited, nervous, is because we're going to talk about our relationship today. And this is part 2 of a conversation that I started a couple of weeks ago in response to a listener email who wanted to learn how you and I built trust in our relationship. And so we're going to dive into that. We're going to answer that. However, we're also going to talk about our relationship.
Right.
And that is something we have not done on this show. I haven't talked about it. I flirted with, sprinkling here and there little tidbits about our relationship, but I haven't truly unpacked it and gone in. And that's what has me a little nervous.
Gotcha.
There's not a lot of folks who truly know the nature of you and my love style.
Right. The intimacy, the depth of it. And I think it's great to have a little bit of that stuff going on because that means it's something important. That means it's something to explore. We're all about that. If you feel the fear reflex get tickled about something, there's an opportunity there to explore. And so I'm sure it's a combination of things. One for me that comes up is just to treat it with the care and the respect and the authenticity and just to give everything to this conversation. So there's that kind of, self-imposed pressure to just give it all that I have because it is such an amazing thing to talk about. And then, because I've relaxed more and more over the years in so many aspects of my life, worrying about what other people are going to say or think or do, because how much can we control that? But it's just then influencing to the best of my ability, my delivery of what I know to be true and to just be my most transparent and authentic self. And then at the end of the day, if that's what you're doing, I mean,
you're winning.
Yeah, I feel complete with that. So
cool. Well, before we go any further, let's take a quick sponsor break, and then we will jump back into this conversation. When was the last time you were rewarded for making healthy choices in your life? Health IQ provides life insurance for health-conscious individuals like you and I, and they believe that we should reap the benefits from healthy living. Just like saving money on your car insurance for being a safe driver, Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. They use science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, vegetarians, and yoga lovers. 56% of Health IQ customers save anywhere between 4 and 33% on their life insurance. And these savings are exclusive to Health IQ. Now, when Sarah and I were recently shopping for our life insurance, we would have loved to have saved some money thanks to our lifestyle. Well, now you can. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/all or mention the promo code ALL when you talk to your Health IQ agent. I'll just say it. You and I are abundant lovers. We are abundant lovers. And I think that's the first time I've used that phrase on the show. Okay. And so we're going to talk about what abundant love is, what it means for us, why we've chosen that for ourselves and for our partnership. And we're also going to talk about how we continue to build and grow trust. Because trust is key. Trust is everything in intimate relationships. In relationships of all types, friendships, partnerships, business partnerships.
And starting with yourself.
Exactly. So trust is paramount. And we're going to talk about, through the course of our relationship, how we have built that trust. And then today, in this type of abundant, loving relationship that we're in, what we are constantly doing, because there are so many opportunities for trust breakdowns given our lifestyle. So really the sequence of everything, we're going to go back to the very beginning of our relationship, talk about how we first came together, because that's a very interesting story, and trust plays a huge part in the very beginning of you and I.
Absolutely.
Then we're going to go into abundant love, and we're going to talk about what abundant love is. We're going to talk about why we've chosen abundant love and how we make it work as parents. That's a very interesting dynamic. And then we're going to get into some of the specific details on how we build trust, continue to build trust, and just to keep that trust incredibly high so that we truly have a deep, fulfilling, rewarding, powerful connection.
You mean have it all?
There you go. I love it. So let's kick things off by reading really the listener email that sparked all of this.
Okay.
This comes from Mark, and changed his name. So for this conversation, his name is Mark. And again, I read this in the last episode. The first episode I did about this topic, building relationships, is actually called Building Greater Trust and Honesty in Your Relationship, Part 1. That's the first one. So, all right, let me go ahead and read Mark's email. Hi, Matthew. I just listened to a few of your episodes. I appreciate you and Sarah bringing real content in the podcast. Can you talk or give feedback about what you and Sarah have worked on individually and how you were able to build so much trust? Just on how to not take things personally and overcoming fears while you express thoughts and feelings to each other. I struggle with trust, which I think we all do at times, and being able to let people in, including my lady. It has added even more struggles in being able to share and receive her sharing her feelings without getting offended or thinking it's my fault or that I am the bad guy. I appreciate all the knowledge you both have and having done a lot of the work already to be able to try new and different things. Thank you, Mark. So that's what kicked this whole thing off.
Very cool.
And in the first episode I did, again, called Building Greater Trust and Honesty in Your Relationships, Part 1, I talked about what I do individually. Specifically, what I've done around being comfortable with sharing, which goes along with letting other people in. And there's a lot of things that I had to do to get comfortable with truly opening myself up, because my MO for years was there was a wall.
Yeah.
You only got so far. And even you experienced a little bit of that, and we'll get into it. So I talked about that in the episode. I talked about holding the space for others, creating a trusting environment, because in order for you to feel like you can share with me, there's things that I can do to set the stage.
Sure.
And I talked about that a little bit. So if you're interested about what I have done individually, go check out that episode. Again, it's called Building Greater Trust and Honesty in Your Relationships, Part 1. There will be a link to that episode in the show notes for this one. But for this one, it's about you and I. You and I, Mama.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and begin by going back to the beginning of our relationship.
Back in time.
Yeah. So we first connected back in 2010?
That's when we first met, correct?
First met in 2010. And we met in a work environment. It was a startup company, very small. I was employee number 1 or 2, and you were intern number 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so there was
first female employee.
Yeah. So it was a very, tight company, and we worked very closely with one another. And you and I were friends.
Oh yeah.
We were
really great friends.
Yeah, we developed a very, very strong friendship.
And to know we were both dating different people at the time
we were.
Met. But I do distinctly remember the first day I met you, when you walked out of the back office and into the front. I remember exactly what you were wearing, and you said, "Hello, my name's Matthew." And I went, "Uh-oh." It was just a tiny, shit. But, whatever. You can look at a cake when you're on a diet, right? Like, you can acknowledge something, that
That's
you
funny.
are attracted to energetically, and it doesn't have to mean anything, but you can. So anyway, I do distinctly remember that moment, but you were dating someone and I was dating someone.
Yeah. And we just continued to cultivate our friendship. And what was cool is that I was the marketing department, and you came in to build out the customer service department.
Right.
And we were so linked because we were a B2C company.
We worked together a lot.
And we worked together a ton. And this was a startup company, so we were putting in 12-hour days, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And so we had tons of one-on-one time. So over the course of 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
2 years, we just became probably best friends.
Yeah.
And your relationship ended at some point.
Yes.
My relationship ended at some point.
And then I started up another relationship.
You
in
did.
those 2 years.
You did, but I think one of the early areas where we began to build some trust between us is that you and I were there for one another during our tough times.
Very true.
Yeah, because you experienced the loss of your stepfather.
Yeah.
He passed.
That was
huge.
It was really huge. And, we, at the job at the time, those were our family members. Those were people we saw the most. And even when we weren't working, those were the people we went out drinking with, having dinners with, lunches with.
Spent all our time with.
Outside of work, I didn't have anyone really in the town that we were living, because it was post-college in the same town that we went to college. And so by this point, I'm like an old adult as far as, college kid standard is concerned. And
all of our friends had moved away.
Everyone had gone. Yeah, everyone moved on to their next stage, and our next stage happened to be in the same place, in the same city. And you were definitely there for me at a really, really tough time. So that was a huge deposit in the trust building department, on top of the fact that we were working together on really important things. So just on a professional level, I had to trust you to do certain things that involved me, and vice versa. So yeah, there were a lot of things that built upon each other over the course of those couple of years.
Yeah. And we both experienced relationships ending.
Yes.
And that was tough.
Yes.
There was infidelity in your relationship.
Yes.
There was definitely emotional infidelity in my relationship. And which is funny. We can kind of circle back to that, because now I understand that I was an abundant lover.
And me as well, being in a relationship that somehow, quote unquote, attracted infidelity.
Yeah.
And then through the course of that relationship,
having
twists and turns, I ended up falling for you. And so then here I was in this state of dating someone, but kind of wanting to be with you. And then at one point just being like, can I have both? Can't I have it all?
It's funny because I just very casually said, there was infidelity in your relationship. And I think there's definitely a little part of me that judged that. I think when my mind
judged what? The fact that I stayed in it?
The fact that there was infidelity. Just because. Right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, that's a person who was feeling attracted to multiple people and didn't know how to manage it.
Well, yeah, it's infidelity, and it's cheating, and it's violation of trust and intimacy and love when it's put through that filter of fear and judgment and whatever. And that's clearly a sign of suppressed emotions and communication on both sides, not just the cheater, the person who is cheated on. I mean, I don't believe there are victims, particularly in that type of situation. It's co-created.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, I guess. But fascinating that I found myself in that sort of scenario, a scenario where I swore I didn't want to experience, right? And then I was so clear in my mind, if anyone did ever cheat on me, that I would never stay with them.
You'd be done.
Oh, but I stayed.
Yeah. So, okay, let's jump to when we started dating.
Yes.
So we knew each other for 2 years. We both had relationships that ended.
Right.
And then one night we went out and I walked you home. I was about to leave and you said, don't leave. And oh, damn. Okay. Sarah's feeling me like that. All right.
We're both single, by the way.
We're both single. Yeah. So we started dating and we worked on, wait, had you dated the boss by that point?
Yes.
Okay. That's
the zinger.
Yeah, so the complicated element in all of this was that Sarah dated the boss of the company.
Just one complicated element. That's just one aspect of it. There are other complicated elements.
And I promise we'll bring this back around to the trust stuff. Yeah. Because so you dated the boss of the company. You guys broke up. You and I dated. And
tried to get off the ground.
We tried to get off the ground. We tried to keep it under wraps, but it just felt awkward. It felt weird. It kind of felt like, we were super close friends, and then we started to touch into this intimate area, but at the same time, we didn't really want to fully dive in because of the previous history between you and the boss that we both saw every single day.
Right.
So that only lasted for a couple months, and then you ended up dating the boss again.
Quite the love triangle.
And you obviously communicated to him, you were honest with him, that you and I tried.
Yeah.
And he and I were close. Like, he hired me, and it was me and 2 other people for a while in the company. So we were close. And so then he described, he explained to me, Sarah told me, I know that you guys went out for a little bit. Hey, it's cool, man. And we did our best to all be friends.
Coexist. Yeah.
Coexist. I don't remember if I think I had an experience, like not a one night stand, but
dalliances.
I had my dalliances at that point because I was feeling it. I was feeling hurt.
I understand.
So then, it was an interesting time. So then you guys break up. then you're
finally
off the market for a little while.
Yeah, because Sarah had to get with herself for a minute there. And I mean, talk about trust. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself in any
torn,
to love myself, to then even get to a point where I could love someone else effectively and fully and in a healthy way. So, and I felt like any way I went, I hurt someone.
Yeah.
And that it was all of this drama and so many people got involved towards the end there. And it was just messy. And I felt like I was the orchestrator of it all. And it was just a really shitty feeling. And so I was like, everyone leave me alone for a bit. I'm going to go into a hole and figure myself out.
And that lasted for a few months?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you and I started talking again?
Yep.
Because we're working so closely together and we're such great friends. And so we started talking again, and then we decided to spark things back up. I remember that conversation in my apartment. No.
Car.
Not in my car. And then we did that for a little while, and that ended.
Really? So we had 2 failed attempts?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
you ended the second time. You ended it. We were at your apartment on the bed, and you said this won't work.
Okay, well, I was ahead in my mind in terms of the timeline just there. So yeah, after the second time is when I took my time for myself, because once we finally got together was when I had that break for myself. So then I was too quick to share the break just there, so I jumped out of time.
Got it. So
anyway,
so we break up for the second time. We go our separate ways again, but of course we're still working together. And then we went to Disney World with a group of friends, and that's when it was like we just can't stay apart. And I like to think that dropping you off after Disney World, I pulled the most baller move.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of just kissing you like in a romantic movie in the car, like The Notebook or something.
Oh my gosh.
I've never even seen The Notebook, but I know there's a kiss in there, at least one. So
that's pretty epic.
So that was when we decided we're in it.
Yeah,
for
it
real.
has stuck since then.
Yeah, it has stuck since then. So and all of the on and off, different people, yada yada, that took place over the course of what, like a year and a half?
No, that less
than a year.
Yeah.
So it was an emotional whirlwind.
It was, yeah. You could have made the argument that it was 10 years. This is how it felt like at times.
Yeah. So then after you and I finally get together and it's solid, it caused such problems in the workplace because by that point, the boss was not talking to me. He really did not like me.
Really. And we hadn't come out. So once we decided we were going to date legitimately
kept it under wraps
forever, we didn't tell anyone about it.
But it didn't work.
Necessary. Well, no.
It didn't work because it was such a small company. So eventually the co-founder let us both go.
Right.
He fired us both because us being there was way too much of a distraction for the boss. And I get it. I understand that I absolutely co-created that situation.
Oh yeah. So I was just reading something the other night. I think it was something Marianne Williamson wrote, that the universe kind of pushes things in the direction of what you've been kind of desiring and wanting and plotting out, but you don't have the courage to do, or you're not.
Heck
you're
yeah,
not putting
the universe
it forward.
does.
That's a prime example of that situation, because we knew we were going to leave.
We
just
set
wanted
an
to get
exit date.
We set an exit date. We wanted to get some ducks in a row. We were looking for other places to go, and then boom. At the time, felt like we were blindsided and let go, but really it was just the universe serving up our order, which we were too chicken shit to put in.
I mean, it was February, and we said we wanted to be out by June,
right?
And we were let go that February, right after we decided and made our plans.
Right.
It was just like, all right, you guys are going to go ahead. So our relationship goes from multiple years of deep friendship to a year of just up and down,
figuring it out,
craziness, figuring stuff out, to then we figure stuff out. Well, now we are without jobs and trying to figure out what to do next. And so we moved from Florida to Atlanta.
And this is officially, we are exclusive dating and we've got our stuff together and we know we want to be together. Maybe 3 or 4 months. So yes, we had been great friends for 2+ years and established this relationship, but as far as we are an intimate partnership and couple, like 3 or 4 months, and here we are You just said, without jobs, what do we do? And we moved to another city together.
We moved to another city together and set up shop in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And that entire crucible that we experienced, what I believe really kept us going, particularly during that 12 months when it was just chaotic, was the trust that we had in one another. And that trust really came through conversation. We were so honest and open in our conversation because there were so many emotions we were feeling, and just being able to say things like, I want to be with you, and this makes me feel blank, and whatever it was. Like, I remember so many deep conversations where we were just sharing and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and expressing how we felt, which was so different than how I had approached relationships. And even to the point where I think in the past, I would have worn on that victim hat, because I could have said, well, he did this and you did that and all this stuff.
Sure.
But along with the building of trust through communication, I started to build a bit of maturity and understanding that I created this. So by the time when we got fired, it was like, it was coming, and it really, I felt a little bit, I felt sympathy for the co-founder who let us go. It was about a 24-hour period where I was pissed. But after that, I felt massive sympathy because I knew that wasn't an easy decision. And I owned it, and it was cool. And I think that type of thing, understanding that we co-create, having that amazing amount of honest and open communication, and building that trust really set us up. It was like a runway for our relationship to then just fly, like take off and go forward from where it was back then to where it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think about, is it a Covey book, a Stephen Covey book, that's The Speed of Trust, that talks about when all these things get put in place, like business deals can happen overnight, multi-million-dollar things, things can just evolve and launch, essentially, whatever it is. And there isn't all of this, back and forth and hiccup thing and whatever. Yeah. And I think because we had been through so much by that point, it really put us in this communal space of, here, we're going to throw you in the deep end. Let's see how those swimming lessons have been working out. And
well, that's why we were able to move cities, right, and get on a lease together. And the trust was so incredibly high.
Yeah, it really was. It's pretty, it's pretty incredible, pretty magical.
We had there was a mix of courage and consideration throughout those challenging times. Courage in taking bold steps and saying what we wanted. I want to be with you, or whatever it was, and saying what we wanted and taking those massive actions, understanding that there were huge inherent risks. And it was that type of thing that I really think helped to create this, I keep using the word trust, but create this feeling that, as I watch you evolve and grow into the person who you are today and who you are becoming, I know that you're going to continue to take those calculated, powerful risks, those things that are going to ultimately help you to grow and heal and transform. And what we were doing back then was doing that without knowing it.
Yeah, we were really putting in a lot of the work that would prepare us and make us open and receptive for what we're now experiencing. I definitely believe that. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
As it relates to that time frame of when we were kind of back and forth, especially, we're talking about this whole trust thing. What within you trusted or surrendered to or still believed in, however you kind of want to word that, us being together, despite, me pulling the plug a couple of times and
like what kept me thinking, all right, let's,
because I'm sure people listening are like, what the hell? Back and forth a few times, and then why would you be open to go in the ring again?
I think it was a combination of things. First of all, I think the most important one was I loved you, and I felt that, and it didn't matter what was happening on the surface. It didn't matter what what was going on because of our emotions or whatever. There was just a deep, powerful attraction and honestly love that I had for you and felt for you. We were so close, and there was such synergy, such connection between us. And when I looked at the situation, I knew that the situation was simply crazy circumstances. I mean, that's not something I would have predicted, to be in a situation where we work in a very intimate environment. You know, you have feelings for multiple people. Things need to be kept secret. Things are out in the open. This person feels this way. This person feels that way. I guess there was a part of me that understood that if you stripped away the circumstance, what would be left was just powerful love between us. And I knew that I felt that for you. So I could deal with all the crazy bullshit.
HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time, and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And I understood the crazy shit. Like, I got it, you know. And I remember being incredibly aware of my jealousy, you know, and understanding that the reason why I'm feeling this is, you know, it's I have that attraction. I have those feelings for you. So I think that was part of it. It is a little challenging to put myself back in some of those emotions, because they were big spikes, big peaks and troughs.
Right.
You know, I went through some emotional swings back then. I remember being moody at times, particularly when I was around the two of you, or when, like, I remember we were going to paint the office. We had, we were going to throw a party. The mayor was coming. We had a news crew and all that stuff. And so we were going to paint the office and really decorate. And my thought was that it was going to be you and I painting. I was really excited. And then when I learned he was going to be there too, I went off the deep end emotionally. I was so frustrated. And it was those swings that I felt all the time. And I'm just going off on, I don't know, going on tangents, but I was into you.
Well, for me, what's interesting, probably until a couple of years ago, when we would talk about the beginning of our relationship, you know, for most couples, it's this really, not that it wasn't happy, but, you know, you expect it to not be as complicated, I guess, when someone first gets together, and that's the honeymoon phase and whatnot. So at times when we would talk about our beginnings, or we would talk about that time of our life, I would kind of shrink a little, and I would feel guilty, and I would feel like shit. I would feel like a bad person. And to heal that for myself, and to get to a place of acceptance of our story is our story, and our beginning is our beginning, and whatever is trust in myself, and trust in the process, that's the way it flowed. That's the way that we both created it to be, and trust in you that's not, you don't harbor any ill will towards me about it. There's nothing you do or say, nothing in your actions that would ever indicate to me that you did feel that, but that was just, you know, my own self-imposed punishment and guilt. And that's building upon past programming and patterns in my life, is just to continue self-punishment and kind of that guilt. So that was something to heal. And I think that is a testament to the power of building trust within myself, building trust with you, and building trust in us to just release that, because it doesn't serve at all to feel that way looking back on that time.
Absolutely. And, I think you've done a lot of healing, your relationship towards yourself from, 8 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And the choices that you made, the choices that I made, the choices that we made together, there's been a lot of healing that's gone on. And I think that's amazing, because it just means that you've continued to grow, to transform yourself, just continue to be a more powerful version of yourself through all that healing. And, I really never harbored ill will towards you, or really towards him. And that's something I don't necessarily think I can't really explain, because I imagine that there are folks out there who would, but yeah, I just chalked it up to a crazy situation, and I got it. I understand this. I think this stuff happens. So that's kind of the beginning, first part of our relationship. Right. We go through all this stuff, and in a few sentences, what were some of the big trust building activities, actions, words, or whatever that help establish the trust within you in those first, let's just call it the first 3 years?
Right. I would say a couple of big things. So higher level is releasing the role of victim to life, to past partners, to whatever sort of circumstance. And then I had a pattern of, when I did feel victimized by something, in my quasi attempt to not be overpowered by something else or not let anything else get that satisfaction from me to be my villain, I would then internalize it all and attack myself twice as much as I believed someone else was doing or coming at me with. And it would just be this dark stage and process of depression and self, just mutilation, really, emotionally and mentally. Physically when I was younger, yes. When I was younger and depressed, I resorted to things like cutting, and I had moved on from that, and it was just more kind of psychological torture.
Just a different form.
Of pain, yeah. So breaking down that was huge in order to, like I said, trust myself in a situation, to be able to trust my emotions. I felt like my emotions were my enemies at times because of what I believed they influenced me to do, and to, in our case, hurt other people or whatever. So I found myself at a place where I felt like I couldn't trust my emotions.
And I get it, because being in the relationship, the type of love style we have now, all right, let me back up on this, because I want to make sure this comes across. Society, there's programming, there's stories handed down from our parents, from teachers, from society, that you need to pick your mate, and that's it. Shut every other feeling, any other attraction, anything else needs to be shut down. Suppress it, put it in a box, put it somewhere else, because it's wrong, right? And here you were in a space where you felt genuine attraction and feelings for multiple people, because this person filled you up in one way, that person filled you up in a different way. And those are your emotions, right? You're feeling these pulls. That's your heart. But then you're getting all of this signaling and programming telling you that that's wrong. I can absolutely see why you didn't trust your emotions. Because the people who are handing down these stories don't trust their emotions. Right. The people who are writing these programs that then we're all running, they're writing them based out of fear, and they're writing them based out of scarcity.
Right.
And I absolutely felt that, and I felt that in relationships. The relationship I was in before connecting with you, I felt attraction all over the place. But man, I judged the shit out of myself for any attraction that wasn't directed exclusively at her.
That's what you're supposed to do, basically. That's the way to keep it normal, is to keep it bad. Because we don't have avenues, or we haven't healthily created platforms, until now that we're experiencing that. But the mainstream, there aren't ways to funnel that in some sort of way that can be healthy, that can benefit you, that can benefit your partner, that can benefit your greater community, just as a result of heeding your essentially biological wiring, and just processing it in a way that doesn't have to be shameful, that doesn't have to be all the things that we make it. So
absolutely.
I guess to get back to what I was saying about the releasing victimhood, that was probably one of the biggest things to do as far as my trust cultivation, and what that looks like on a lower level in terms of habits and thoughts and whatever. Putting ourselves in environments with like-minded growth mentality people was a big thing. Getting into things like as simple as meditation, working out consistently, eating healthy. I mean, those are really the foundational things to building love and trust and care for yourself. And then when you're rolling at a space like that, then you can put yourself in a place to pour that onto others, or to connect more intimately in your partnership, and to build up that trust to new heights, is like getting right with yourself.
Absolutely. And so we're gonna put some more. We'll list out some other like action item type things towards the end when we get into okay, what are the specific things we do to build trust. But what we were talking about before with the not really having a powerful context around love and around relationships and around, how we can fill ourselves up, how we can be the most powerful version of ourselves within relationships, how we can have relationships that truly are unconditionally loving and supportive. I have not had a context, a model, anything around that until recently. And that segues perfectly into what we put out there before, this idea, this concept of abundant love.
And that's if we were to put a label on it. If we are putting,
yes.
We need labels for things to an extent to just wrap our minds around and to put it in some sort of context. But what we are, who we are, and what we experience and what we choose, I don't even see it as a thing. I think it's just an essence, and I think it's a manifestation of what I can now more properly and powerfully understand myself to be. But, we need to call something blue so that we all have an idea of what blue is.
Absolutely.
But, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think we get really hung up on labels. Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you monogamous? Are you polyamorous? Are you a swinger? Whatever the thing is, we need those labels, because then I get to put you in a box, and that's how I know you to be. But I don't feel in a box. I'm boxless. Boxes.
Yeah, and me too. And because it's all dynamic and fluid. It's fluid, and it moves and it shifts and it evolves. But what is at the core of it for me has been a new paradigm at which to view love, relationships, sex, health, wellness, all of that.
Wealth and creativity too.
Wealth, creativity, healing. And we put the label of, we call it abundant love. And so I think for me, one of the most simple ways that I can really explain, it goes, when I used to view what sex was for, sex tended to fall within 3 different categories. You had sex for fun, right? Because you just want to get your rocks off. You had sex for procreation. You wanted to make babies. And I didn't really think about this until later on. It was, this idea was handed to me, but sex out of duty. You felt the responsibility.
Can I just say, you might have had the slightest bit of difficulty connecting with that fully because you're a man. I think women could get with that way more. Like when you said that, women were like, oh, I get that.
Yeah. Sex because you need to do that to keep your partner fulfilled, to keep your man fulfilled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was how I walked around viewing sex. And the one of the big reasons why you get into a relationship is so that you can do one of those three things. Right? So abundant love is all about creating intimate sexual relationships that are for the purpose of ongoing healing, for the purpose of empowerment, and for the purpose of sustainable joy. And I'll say that was not what I was taught or shown that intimate sexual relationships were all about. They were really for procreation, they were for fun, just to get your rocks off, or they were for obligation because you had to. And, the way that we are now looking at intimate sexual relationships is a complete 360 or 180. It's a complete 180. And so as we kind of unpack this abundant love thing, we can look at those three areas of, first of all, healing. You can answer this. Were you ever taught that sex could be healing?
Absolutely not.
No. There was nothing until I started to read different books, and we talked about this before we hit record. You mentioned a couple books. I want you to share them. But until we started to go and look at, other cultures and other viewpoints on sex, I was never taught that sex could be healing. Ever. And healing in a lot of different ways, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? So sex can absolutely be healing. And through abundant love, it has given us this context that the healing aspects of sex are all about getting back to being whole, recognizing that you are whole, that you are sound, and creating elevated health through sex. So that's the first part. The second part of really what abundant love is all about, as I said, is that empowerment. Or do you have anything else to add to healing?
You did a pretty great job there. I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more,
all right,
but
cool.
Just it's a space where you connect intimately with someone else and yourself. Yourself. I think we remove ourselves sometimes from the sexual equation, minus whether or not we orgasm or how it feels, but we're not even considering ourselves in this interaction. It mainly has to do with what the other person is doing or not doing. But it's an incredibly intimate act, and how I can look at sexual interaction now is on the same plane as things like meditation, massage, even exercising and eating well. Those are all pathways to fueling parts of yourself, and we are sexual beings. Sexuality and sensuality is a huge part of ourselves. So to cap ourselves in any way in that area, or to deny even, which a lot of us are doing, straight up denying. We're not even just ignoring some parts. Like we denying just don't have sexualness to us. Just by doing that, you cut yourself off from the fullness of who you are. And so using sex as a way to get back to who that is incredibly healing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, for me, I got a lot of my beliefs around sex, masculinity, relationships from pornography, as I know a lot of guys have. And I first started watching porn when I was, middle school, 10, 11, 12. And so back then I wasn't having conversations with, my father about sex. I wasn't having conversations with other guys about it. I was receiving information from TV and movies, and I had a TV in my room, so I was able to get the fuzzy HBO, right? And I could watch all of the softcore movies. I could watch Taxi Cab Confessions. I could watch Real Sex, which was actually, looking back on Real Sex, like
pretty awesome.
There was some healthy
they were doing.
Context within it. But my young mind had no idea how to handle all that stuff. So the healing for me that has happened, has happened recently and today is really rooted in healing these beliefs around sex and how I need to show up.
Right.
I'm supposed to show up.
Right.
This idea that it's my job to make my partner come. this idea that, the size of my penis is a definition of my masculinity. Yeah. The belief that if I feel the urge to ejaculate, it's because I'm weak, it's because I'm not a man, if I'm unable to control, or that I have to have complete control at all times, that I have to be able to, fuck like a porn star. It's those types of thoughts. I go back to this idea of planting seeds in fertile soil. When I was young, my mind was just ready for these unhealthy thoughts, these unhealthy ideas to be planted. And I watered them so much. And so the healing that I experience today, so much of it is around my own self-image.
Yeah. And I think what you said just there segues perfectly into that second element you mentioned of
Yes.
empowerment. And just speaking from a female perspective, I mean, you talked about some of the places where you received your context around sexuality. Mine were soap operas and teeny bopper pop music.
Yeah.
And, those teen rom-coms of the late 90s and early 2000s where sexuality was like hinted at and laced over things, but it wasn't overt and you never really saw anything enough to get the real picture. And like the girls had sexuality to them, but were still super chaste. And so what I just received that as an internalized and solidified as my view on sex was to be as virginal as possible in every aspect. And that's the way that men will want you, to stay that way. And in an indirect way, I was using sex to shut myself down before even getting to a point where a partner could shut me down. I was shutting myself down because of the programming I was receiving around me to keep that shit under wraps, to keep that bottled up, because it's not cute or it's scary, to see a fully expressed, unapologetic sexual woman. And that still is threatening to a lot of people. So
hell yeah, it is.
to use the medium and the ground of sex now as a place for tapping into that voice, that empowerment is absolutely huge. And again, similar to healing, not something I was taught. I think you can see sex as a power play, as a power move. And most of the time it's a man over a woman, utilizing that sexual power to do something to her or whatever. Or if it is kind of seen as a power move for a woman, it's to kind of get back, or it's vengeance, or it's cunning, and it's kind of manipulative. Like, it's not seen as this just like, let's both power up together. Like, let's both roar.
Yeah.
You don't see it like that. But that is how I'm experiencing it now as a result of what we're doing, how we're living, who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a lot of surrender and stepping into some terrifying situations where, we're being asked to confront those sexual, those identity, those beliefs that we have around ourselves. Because what sex presents is ultimate vulnerability, right? When you strip down physically, when you take off your clothes and you're standing there and you're nude and you're stepping into that arena with another person, the only thing that you're bringing with you is yourself. You're bringing with you your ego. You're bringing with you your fears, your judgments, all of that stuff. And all of it reveals itself through sex. When you're tuned in, when you're truly tuned in and you're aware, all of those stories, those conversations, those beliefs you have about yourself, the powerful ones and the not so powerful ones, can all be revealed. And so, you and I now have this context with which to view those intimate sexual relationships. And, through the healing, like you said, we've tapped into an amazing amount of empowerment, personal empowerment. I mean, my word of the year last year was beast mode. And I talked about beast mode on the show, but I didn't talk about what it truly meant. Because the context that I have around the word beast mode is when I'm in an abundant, loving, situation with somebody, being able to tap into my full power, connecting with source, connecting with that source energy that is within me, that all of us are. When I do that, I feel an incredible amount of power, peace, presence, confidence, it's like, can't fuck with me. It truly is beast mode. And that's the type of empowerment that I have experienced through abundant love. And when I am allowing myself to be that vulnerable with another person, and that empowerment, I'm then able to tap into that same type of feeling outside of the sexual session or whatever.
Sexual session.
So, being able to take that energy, 'cause that's all that it is. It's just energy. Take that energy and apply it to the other areas of my life.
To interject there, if we're bringing this back to this conversation of trust and building trust in yourself and building trust in your relationship, viewing things from a more objective stance of its energy, when you can do that, that feeds directly into the thing. Was it Mark? Was that your listener, Mark?
Yeah.
The thing of taking things personally.
Yes.
When you can look at things as just energy, and whether something's higher energy or lower energy, and you kind of melt away the morality aspects of it, that something is inherently good or bad, or you are good or bad, or it's shameful, hellfire, damnation, or whatnot, that helps a lot with receiving feedback, receiving communication from your partner, sharing with your partner as well, because to not take things personally, I mean, that's a thing, but that can be practiced through this. And the connection isn't always as obvious, but I see it now, for myself through this practice of, because it builds up my courage to share and to voice. And with that, when you do that, you're putting trust out there into the universe that who you're sharing this with can receive it.
Absolutely.
And that they're powerful enough in their own right to hear whatever it is you're saying. And maybe if you're not spitting it out in the most powerful way, been there before, definitely shot some stuff at you before that I know didn't go through my powerful filter. And I was like, he'll deal with it. He'll be able to figure it out. And you can either translate it and see where I'm coming from, and we can move from there. And then the flip of that is being able to sit there and hear some things that maybe I don't want to hear. But if that's your experience, that's your experience. And especially if that's your feelings, those are your feelings. That's shit to not dispute. Like if someone's just sharing how they're feeling, just to be in that space and, healing and empowerment through sexual healing. I'm going to use that word again because that's, it's sexual healing. Marvin Gaye had it right.
Absolutely. And it's cool that
builds that up.
That you mentioned that, because we talked about different books we'd read and things. Like these ideas have been sprinkled around a lot.
Oh yeah.
And these ideas go back a long, long way.
They go back a long way, but also I think people are keeping this as a secret to themselves. And part of that, you can argue what the authenticity and the self-trust is there. But think about people at high levels of success or super powerful leaders.
Yeah.
They're all having multiple intimate sexual relationships, and sometimes not always the healthiest, but some of them, I feel like the people who get it, who tap in, get that it's energy, get that love is abundant. And they're all, Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
I think when you reach a certain level of understanding, you can see things from just more of an energetic space. You get it. And, they're not out there sharing all of this like we are right now because of whatever, maybe they feel like people won't receive it or that'll change their level of status. But yeah, this stuff is sprinkled out there for sure.
Yeah. And so, going back to breaking down what abundant love is all about, we've got the healing aspect, we have the empowerment aspect. And then I also talked about the sustainable joy. And because that is the state that I'm playing for, to have that sustainable joy that comes from the empowerment, the healing, to be able to have that state of happiness that really I can take with me through life and be able to withstand anything that life throws at me, any type of circumstance, because I understand myself to be a powerful individual. I understand myself to be truly source energy, right? I understand myself to be able to withstand anything. And I can, if we just look at things as energy, right? Like I can transmute. I can take something that appears in one way and be able to shift it and create some joy and some peace out of it. And that is incredible. Incredible. Being able to shift things up. So it doesn't matter what life throws at you, you can shift it and recontextualize it for yourself and create joy. That's a powerful idea. And through abundant love, I have been able to tap into that. You have been able to tap into that. And by engaging in, these intimate, powerful, connected sexual experiences with other people who are also of this similar abundant love mindset, it's been able to give us this place to practice these things. And I guess that it leads me into my next point, which is that abundant love can be practiced in many different types of ways.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that too. And I kind of wanted to interject as a listener right now who might be, okay, I heard all of what you said, abundant love, cool, using sexual interactions as this. So answer just some like very clear, blunt questions like, Sarah and Matthew, as you describe all of this, I'm getting very fancy. As you describe all of this, does that mean you have sex with other people outside of the two of you?
Yes.
Yes.
What are your other questions?
That was my first one. And then I thought maybe they would roll from there. But I mean, I'm just thinking about the person who's like, okay, that sounds all nice, but I don't really get it. Or what does that mean? Or,
yeah,
walk me through a day in your life. Like what the,
Which we can.
What the hell?
Which we can. And, we absolutely can do that. So, but I think it goes back to understanding that this is a new context.
Yes.
It's a different context.
Yes.
And that this context can be practiced in many different ways. So
absolutely. And there's not one way.
There is not one way
to do anything.
Which is why if we go back to earlier, you pointed out, Sarah, that we commonly as a people, as a society, want to be able to put things in a specific box.
Yeah.
When you're filling out a form at the DMV, you have to check your race. And this is funny, this is a tangent. But for years, I'm other.
Right.
Right. And so now I feel like if we were to put ourselves, check off the box of what type of lover we were.
Other.
Or an abundant
other
lover. And so monogamy, you can practice abundant love within monogamy. You can practice abundant love within non-monogamy, or, if you want to consider yourself polyamorous, you can practice abundant love in a polyamorous situation. Or like you said, what swinger?
Swinger.
That's what you said earlier. So again, because abundant love is simply a context, and you can take that context to any type of relationship that you have or you are choosing. You can practice abundant love, with yourself, having those intimate sexual experiences with yourself, and to be able to look at, masturbation as healing, as empowering, as allowing you to tap into sustainable joy, right? It doesn't have to look a certain way. You and I, over the course of years, and you mentioned earlier, after we became a married couple, started to understand, especially as we looked back into our previous relationships and previous patterns, that the way in which that we wanted to experience multiple lovers.
That was huge. So can I touch on that for a second? First of all, we're within the first year of marriage, this institution in and of itself that you're taught so many things about, and you have this idea of what it needs to look like, should look like, whatever. And I don't know, however many months in, we're like, we're seriously having these conversations. Like, we're talking about potentially having intimate relationships with other people, and what the hell, like, we couldn't even make it, it's that, like, we couldn't make it a year without looking at opening up our marriage, so to speak.
Yeah, because it became
there was shit around that for me.
Absolutely.
Like, does this mean I don't love you as much? Does this mean I'm not as sexually attracted to you? Like, all the things that you would imagine a couple going outside of each other, what that's indicative of. And that process, what you just mentioned of us both going independently of each other, because again, I think all of this needs to come back to you as an individual first, in building your trust and understanding where you're at in terms of your own love language and your own desires as far as a relationship and sexuality. Like, you need to get clear with yourself first. That cannot be reiterated
always.
more.
Always starts within. Always starts with you.
So I think we both did that, and that took our own time frames and it had its own ebbs and flows. But to speak for myself, to look back to even some of the earliest awarenesses of what sex was and sexuality and my own self-expression around that, was I always had this desire and curiosity, as I'm sure every other human being does, around being with other people outside of whoever I was with at the time. And even before I was having sex, just wondering, I wonder what it'd be like to kiss that boy.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to date that boy. Or then later on when I'm dating and I'm having sex with people, I'm curious what it's like to connect with that person in that intimate way. I don't want to be with them. Connecting. Exactly.
Yeah.
Connecting. I wonder what it's like to level up as far as an intimate connection with that person over there who I care about, I know cares about me. But I don't want to leave this person that I'm with because I like this solid foundation. I like this primary partnership I have going on. But I just...
And so you feel like you have to choose.
Does that make me greedy? Does that make me difficult? And I can't just be happy? I can't just be satisfied? I can't just cultivate everything that I need within the confines of one relationship? Why can't you do that? Why aren't you capable of that?
What's wrong with you?
Yes. So I had to go back into the archives of all of that for myself and figure out, like you said earlier, being in a relationship that attracted an infidelity thing. Oh, fascinating. So if I keep funneling my desires to experience outside of what we traditionally understand as a primary relationship, I could have something like this, which millions of other people in our country and then probably billions around the world are experiencing. They think they're in a monogamous, rich, intimate relationship, but they're not.
Yeah.
Or that we as a society are not really as monogamous as we think we are, whether or not we're actually having sex with other people. What's the word that I want? Lying about having sex with other people outside, or we're doing it in our brains.
Which was the case for me.
So I had to go through all of that back work and process and kind of peel back those layers and to also get with what it looked like to add to our marriage, add to our partnership in this process rather than break it down before it even really got started.
Yeah, before it got going.
Like the ring had barely been on the finger, the paperwork had barely been filed, and here we are like looking to just flip this whole
Add
shit
more
up.
people.
Yes.
So yeah, we definitely decided and created this abundant loving relationship for both of us pretty early on, you could say, in our marriage. But I think it was always in us. We were abundant lovers, and that's when we began to recognize it. And that's honestly when we had the courage to embrace it, to talk about it. And that's when we started to shift. I know for me, the judgment.
Yeah.
Really started to shift my context around love and relationships and release a lot of the judgment that I had about being in a relationship where, we might express and connect with other people, because I always judge the shit out of stuff like that.
Right. And you said connect with other people. So that doesn't mean exclusively through sexual intercourse, or that's always what it is. It's about understanding what works for you. And I think what we found and established what worked for us as individuals and in our partnership, for me, it didn't feel and doesn't feel realistic, healthy, whatever, to expect one person to fulfill me in every single aspect of the elements that make up a relationship, and that I am putting all of that on one person. I don't want that pressure to be everything for someone. And I also don't want to expect that from someone, because you're probably going to be disappointed if you're expecting everything from one person. Likewise.
Yeah. And I know for me in my past relationships, I would have the expectation that this person is going to be the person who's going to fill me up and on every single level. And once I got to a certain point in the relationship when I realized they were not going to be a certain type of person. So for me, sexually, I had all these different ways I wanted to express myself sexually, all these different experiences I wanted to have. But I remember being in relationships, dating women where that was just not like what I wanted to experience. Maybe it was multiple people, maybe it was a position, maybe it was whatever. They were just not about it. And so I remember telling myself, okay, I'm just going to have to
Get over
dull
that.
that.
Yeah, put it on the shelf, or hope you can fantasize enough about it, or that you can watch porns that offer that type of experience.
Well, the hope wasn't that I could watch porn.
Well, not the hope, no, but that's just going to have
The
to
remedy.
satisfy it as best as it can, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, okay, I'll just watch porn. It was deep shame to go to that thing, and it was very hidden. But I totally remember suppressing or telling myself that I would suppress my desires and my feelings because, well, the person I'm with, maybe she can fill up some of my areas, but not all of them. Okay, I guess this is how it has to be.
Here's the thing about trust, too, and a practice within everything you've just been describing. So we've talked about how not healthy or realistic for us to expect one person to be everything. So let's say there's something that is a big part of who you are, you want to experience, and it's not so much like that for me, but I want you to be able to experience whatever that is. Now there's a part of work for me to do to be okay with you experiencing whatever that thing is outside of me. It's one thing to say it, but then to actually be in the practice of, no, I want you to feel as most whole and complete and expressed as a human being, because that's who I fell in love with. And that's who I'm going to continue to love, is you being you, authentically you. And so for you to do that, taking things personally, what we've been talking about, the trust and the surrender in that doesn't mean you love me less or want to be with me less, because you do get to experience a part of yourself outside of me. So that's some...
Yeah, and one of the ways that I've sort of have been able to define that and describe this is we use colors. I love you green.
Yep. The most green you could ever love.
Yep.
Yep.
And I can love another person blue.
Yep. The most blue.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
And I've also thought of it in this way, like maybe I bring the green and you bring the yellow. And when we mix together, it makes a unique color. But
blue.
Green and yellow doesn't make blue.
Shoot. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah. Wah, wah. It makes yellow green.
Whatever.
But then I can take my color and I can mix it with someone else and it makes something else. It doesn't mean what we have is diminished.
Right.
It doesn't mean that what we have is my love for you is now. Well, you said it actually. I think you said it before we hit record, that when a parent has multiple kids, you have so much love for one child. And then, now you have two. Does that mean the love for child number one is cut in half?
Right.
And then, no.
You have to parcel it out.
No, you realize that your capacity to love expands
Yep.
with the people that you choose to love.
Yep.
That's what abundant love is about.
And, if we're talking along the lines of kids, it's the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it takes a village as well to raise an adult, but to love your spouse.
Yeah.
And that's why people lived like this, and other parts of the world still do live like this in huge communities where the children are everyone's, and sometimes they don't even know who the fathers are, because especially depending on where these villages are, they're not doing things like paternity tests and stuff like that. But just that, how could having more people in your life to love be a bad thing?
Yeah, more people in your life to love you,
to
support you.
Exactly. That's...
And that works for us.
Yes.
And I have to reiterate that works for us, and we choose to. We have chosen to open up our relationship in that way. And the people that you and I connect with are extraordinarily like-minded people. They too believe that intimate sexual relationships are, the most powerful ones are the ones that are healing, that are empowering, that create joy.
Right.
And those are the people that we connect with.
Yeah, it's not just this willy-nilly type of thing. Like, we're not on Tinder, like swiping. I don't even know which way you swipe to be in the affirmative. But I think we're going to get into that in a second, what that's about. But I want to comment on something real quick that you were talking about, realizing that's who we were and how that was a big part of all of this. And, circling back to that main topic of trust that we're talking about, is trusting that by being who you are, and this was the thing for me, I don't know if it was for you, that meant releasing what other people might think, do, say, or how they might receive it, especially when you choose to share, this information. And the only thing I could imagine likening it to is, like coming out in a way, because you're sharing this aspect and this intimate part of yourself, but it's yourself, it's who you are. And one thing that I had a hang up on for a while in this process of healing and growing and discovering and understanding was that by sharing this, who I am, with people, that creates this like murky pool of, does that mean I'm looking to get with like anyone, essentially? Are there no rules? Are there no boundaries? Or that by sharing it with someone, whether it's a male or female, that that means they're on the table. So, as a possibility, or their spouse or something. It's what I would imagine, some of the less than accepting or loving people who, when a same-sex friend comes out to them, thinking like, oh, are they attracted to me now? No, get over yourself. Like, this is who I am. I'm not looking to, no. So does that make any sense?
It does. And, so I'll be honest. This is, I have told one other person about the type of relationship you and I have. And I have been nervous. I've been scared of telling more people. The only person I told was my sister, and it's because I felt that she totally could understand and get with it. But I haven't told my other sister, haven't told my mom, my dad. I know you haven't told your parents, your family. You've told a handful of friends, and this right now. I mean, like I said it earlier, I have talked about this stuff on the show. I used the phrase non-monogamous back in earlier episodes. But I've never described it in this detail. I've never used the proper phrase that we use, abundant love. So this is a big thing right now, sharing it. And, there's tens of thousands of people who are listening to this right now that it's like, all right, that's kind of interesting. But just like what you said, it's fully embracing
right yourself first,
who I am and who we are, because until we are at a place where we can share openly and share with our family, our parents, I do believe there's we still aren't being fully expressed. We still aren't fully expressing, and so this is a step in that direction. This is a big step. It's a big step for me. So let's do a quick recap, because I do want to move on and talk about some specific things that you and I do to build and strengthen trust.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
So quickly to recap, we've talked about this whole abundant love thing, and it really is a new context. It's a new paradigm. It's about healing. It's about empowerment. It's about sustainable joy. Within abundant love, all different love styles can fit. Monogamy, non-monogamy, polyamory, whatever types of thing you describe yourself can fit within this new context. And it's an alternative context, right? That's simply what it is. It's something that works for us. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it on this show, apart from finally sharing that or coming out, like you said,
expression,
the authentic expression, is because in order to make it work, and we haven't even talked about how long. We've been doing this for about 3 years.
Yeah.
About 3 years. So
not
before
even doing
baby-
this, being this. Like,
True. We've been so actively, intentionally being abundant lovers for 3 years. We had been being it for much longer.
right.
And over those 3 years, we've had an incredible amount of challenges, breakdowns, breakthroughs,
Oh, yeah.
ecstatic moments in and outside of the bedroom, just all of the stuff that you can imagine, which happens in relationships
Yeah,
anyway.
any relationship.
But for this really to work, trust has to be so high. Trust has to be so high because for me, jealousy was the emotion that would run rampant. Jealousy was like the black plague in my mind at times. And, a while ago, I really had this mindset that if I was feeling an emotion that was anxiety, fear, jealousy, I truly wanted to get to the root of it because I recognized that I would feel jealousy because I had that jealousy receptor within me. And if I could heal whatever it was going on within me, I could release the feeling of jealousy. And so abundant love created a ton of opportunities for me to experience jealousy. So that was one of the big whys, the big motivators for me to really move forward because so many opportunities presented themselves for me to heal things. Right? So that's, again, that's why we wanted to talk about this because trust is so freaking important. So important.
To add my piece to that puzzle, you're talking about jealousy was a big one for you. I didn't and don't really experience that much jealousy. I don't know, maybe it was my relationships over the years. I got practice out there and I just don't feel myself as a very jealous person. And if there were any aspects along this journey thus far that have come up like that, I guess you could say we kind of assumed our perceived gender biological roles in the sense that you were jealous of, the physicality of me being with someone else. And then for me, it was kind of the scarcity of resources, that you'll be more intimately connected emotionally with someone else or, that they would be taking away time or whatever, that sort of thing. So I could get little pangs of that. But for me, one of the biggest challenges has been around accepting it for myself. So I, along the way, could make the argument and thought it would be cool with me if you just experienced people outside of our relationship and I'm fine. You can just bring it back to me every once in a while or, I'm cool. So to explore for myself what that shit was about, why I was willing to give someone else the whole pie and not take a slice for myself, that's been my opportunity in abundant love, is to receive and to fully express who I am as a woman and as a goddess. And, not to stomp on the whole premise of your show, but it's not about having it all for me as a woman in abundant love. It's about receiving it all and increasing my own capacity for my own self-love and realize what I'm worthy of and that I am worthy of having multiple people love me the way that I know I can love multiple people. But just to receive that was scary and still is sometimes depending on the space.
Yeah.
So that's been my thing to work on with my own self-trust is, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm it. Like I can be it.
You are it, mama. Totally. And what we get out of being abundant lovers is this incredible loop back.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't make sense a lot of times. A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense.
That's why, to have some of the conversations that we talked about, what you think people might think or say or whatever, is to create the context. You can do it as best as you can. But there is some stuff you can't put words to, and just to try to explain it, as soon as you open your mouth, it's been dumbed down like 100 degrees.
Oh, totally. Like you said, trying to describe a color.
Right.
But we both experience what we just described as this loop back where, you go and have an experience with someone, and in that experience, you are being fully expressed, right? Like you are bold, you are expressing yourself, you're using your voice, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and there's transformation happening over there, and just you're connecting truly with yourself, connecting truly with another person. And then what happens is the energy is just out of this world. It's the way that people describe new moms. Oh, you have this glow. You know what I mean? It's like you have that energetic glow about you, and you bring that back to our relationship. You bring it back to our primary relationship. You bring it back to our household. You bring it back to our businesses. You bring it back to the podcast. You bring it back to everything.
It's manifestation, creative,
yes.
life, energy.
And the same happens for me when I go and I connect with somebody and, create these amazing breakthroughs. I then return a more just powerful, in my beast mode, just version of myself. And I pour it back into you, and I pour it back into our house, and I pour it back into our family, and everything benefits. It's the phrase that the rising tide raises all ships. Literally, that energy that we feel from those experiences, it uplifts, and then we're playing for that sustainable joy. That state stays there, and we're constantly moving the bar up to what our homeostasis is. And that's been an incredible thing. And I absolutely have experienced that over the past 3 years, and it impacts everything else. And so it's, that's one of the huge reasons why we've chosen this abundant, loving lifestyle in the manner in which we've chosen it, because of one of the payoffs is, it's incredible.
And what makes it so powerful and even possible is it is a complete non-negotiable and essential that anyone we choose to interact with and people we are interacting with are playing for that as well.
Yes.
In their own lives, in their partnerships. That is crucial to me. So that's really the only way I believe it's able to be the way that it is, because of the standards we've created in our lives for these types of relationships, and because of the accountability that's in place for ourselves as individuals, for you and me as a couple, and for anyone else. And understanding that anyone I am interacting with or anyone that you are interacting with are in complete acknowledgement of who we are for each other, who we are as individuals, that I'm your queen, you're my king, and that's first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And, everything else magnifies and adds to that. That is it. A complete understanding in order for what we are experiencing to be able to happen.
Yeah. So let's piggyback off that and shift and talk about some of the specific things that we have done and currently do to keep the trust high.
Let's do it.
And these things are, they enhance our relationship. They allow our relationship the way that it is to flourish. And no matter what type of relationship you have and what type of relationship you want to grow and develop, these types of things can absolutely help. One of the first is a mindset that you and I have, and we are dedicated to our own healing, growth, and transformation as individuals.
Yeah.
And we recognize that you and I are on individual paths. We are on our own path in life, and right now our paths are headed in the same direction. And, we walk our paths and we support one another in walking those paths. But both of us are totally committed to making sure that we as individuals are the most badass versions of ourselves that we can be.
Yeah.
And because I know that you're playing for that in your way, and you know that I'm playing for that in my way, I can trust that the decisions you make are in alignment with that.
That's so beautifully put. And that, even looking at how I love you or you love me, I love you, yes. I am also loving me through the reflection and the mirror at which you serve me as right now in this iteration of our lives. So it's like, I love you because of how much I love me.
Yeah.
And that synergy is really powerful.
Yeah. It's you hold a high standard for yourself, and I respect and love myself enough to interact with a person who holds a high standard of themselves.
Exactly.
And that wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
That wasn't always the case, but I think currently my self-worth is at a spot that, I have attracted a partner like you who, like you said, is that mirror, is that reflection. So, both of us have that mindset, and we rep it and we practice it. That helps to establish the trust, because I trust that what you choose for yourself is for your the highest purpose, highest version of yourself is for all of those things I mentioned. So I don't have to question or ask. I don't have to doubt. I don't have to probe. Why are you doing this? Why this? Why that? I might ask questions out of curiosity, but it's never because, I don't trust that you're heading in, whatever direction you feel is right for you.
Yeah. And so long as I'm keeping in integrity of who I say I'm going to be, that's why we're here too, to call each other out on our bullshit when we're not playing for what we say we're doing,
Yep.
or we're not on path,
Yep.
to call each other out. And we have things in place for that too, like our mission statements.
Yeah. And so the calling each other out, another way to put it is giving and receiving feedback.
Yes.
And, just it's that honest communication. And in order to have honest communication, you need to be okay with being bold.
Yeah. And it takes practice.
It absolutely takes practice.
So, don't just hear that and think, oh, I'm fucked. It's a progress and a process, and it's a balancing act.
Which is made so much easier when your partner is also cool with it. Like
Hell
they're
yeah.
also playing for that. Because if one of you is open and interested in elevating yourself and, growing and healing and all that stuff, but the other person isn't, they're probably not going to be interested in hearing your thoughts on it, hearing, hey, this is how I'm experiencing you right now, and holding them accountable to things. So, that is something for you to evaluate. But you mentioned mission statement. So that's one of the things that we both have. We have worked on creating powerful mission statements for ourselves. And if you ever feel that I am stepping out of alignment, that I'm playing small, that I'm being fearful, that I'm, with abundant love and our relationships, if I'm kind of straying or doing something, you can simply refer to my mission statement and be like, Matt, this is what you said you're playing for, man.
That's exactly what
Explain.
I would say too. Although
Yeah.
I wouldn't call you Matt. I would call you Bivens. I'd be
You
like,
call me
Bivens.
Bivens.
And I'd
Yeah.
probably call you Dude. But yes, that's exactly what would happen.
And so we both have them. Yours is currently up to date. And do you want to share yours?
Sure. I'd love to share mine.
Yeah, I'm working on mine. So
Okay,
go ahead and
cool.
share yours.
So mine is to to be the humble badass in exquisite execution of balanced lifestyle, honoring and owning my divine feminine source and acknowledging my power to co-create, while intimately connecting with others through love, service, nurturing, and healing, exploring and being what's possible, attuned to the abundance of the universe and answering its call with a joyful and faithful heart.
Whew. Boom. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. And so that right there, that's what you created. You put all those words in there. They all have powerful meaning to you. And so you said, Matthew, hold me to this. This is the person who I am becoming. Hold me to this. And so for me, it's like, okay, you trust that if you are straying off of that path, that I'm going to come in and say, babe, this is what I'm seeing. This is how I'm experiencing you. When you did X, Y, Z, I asked myself, is Sarah really headed towards her mission statement right now? And I can simply pull it up, and it doesn't have to be a personal thing. It doesn't have to be an emotional thing. It's simply here's your mission statement.
And talk about trust. When you're that intentional going into the game of whatever it is, a relationship, a partnership of some sort, and you've put out there what you're seeking to experience and what you're intending for yourself and for the experience, when you are then given feedback based on that, there's no coercion.
Yeah.
There's no manipulation. You are not a victim. You haven't been talked in anything. I'm just showing you what you say you're about, and here is where you are not being about it. What you're going to do now.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, fuck, I have no one to blame.
Yeah.
This is just a scenario of co-creative process, and am I going to own my stuff? Wipe the dust off and move on, or, go the other way.
Totally. So we both have the mission statements, and that stuff gets brought up, and it gets brought up in different ways. So for example, last week we were sitting in here, and I was talking about I was going to be connecting with, no, I won't use that word because we've used it in different contexts. I was going to be visiting potential business coaches. And I shared with you, I was feeling nervous. And I shared with you this feeling that I had that I'm not a business person. I don't really know business or whatever. And what did you do?
I gave you a compassionate kick in the ass.
Yeah. What'd you say? Do you remember?
I say so many brilliant things. I don't know. Do you? You must.
I don't remember specifically what you said.
Oh, shoot.
I thought maybe you did. But you basically were like, man, cut that shit out because that right there, first of all, it's not sexy. You doubting yourself and you know, because that's something I used to do, just like push myself down. And you called me out on it. And you just basically brought some awareness to me. And I appreciated that. So that when I stepped into that meeting with them, you know, I do remember actually one thing did come up. I said, I don't really know a whole lot about business. I said something like that in the meeting. I was like, man, like it still popped up. But you brought more awareness by holding me to being that person that I outlined in my mission statement.
Ooh, and can I say, that's trust too. So if I know I'm about something and I know you know what I'm about and you don't take an opportunity to call me out on some bullshit, then I see you as not consistent and I don't trust you to hold me to my shit. And so I think I'm just going to be able to get away with more shit. And so I'm going to go even further down the deep end of being ridiculous with whatever kind of nonsense I can cook up, because we can cook up some nonsense. And so if I don't see you making a stand for yourself first, and by that heretofore vis-a-vis, as a result, you make a stand for me. So if I don't see you doing that, then that's a deduction in the trust account for how I see you, because you're not gonna. It's like a child and a parent. Like a child knows what they're gonna get away with if the parent just keeps letting them do it. So they're like, fine, you're not gonna discipline me, or you're not gonna call me out on whatever I'm doing. So I'm just gonna keep doing more of it. So that's important in relationships too. Whatever dynamic you are striking, whatever balance works for you, you know, it's important to show up consistent for your partner, because then they see who you're going to be. And, you know, we are always influenced by the people we spend the most time with and what they're doing and who they're being. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely. And I love the bringing it back to a child and a parent. That stuff happens all the time and everybody can relate to that. You know, it's like exactly what happens when the parent's not consistent. The parent doesn't, you know, hold that standard. The kid does whatever he wants because he knows he can get away with it. So we experience that same thing in relationships when the other person isn't, you know, maintaining a standard, holding their partner to, you know, to being whatever it is they say they want it to be. So it's easier to do that when you have a mission statement.
Yes.
So creating those personal mission statements for us was huge. We've also done different things and written different things down. One of them is called a de grace. And de grace is, where is that pulled from?
Stephen Covey, Seven Habits.
From Seven Habits.
Yeah, it's in, you know, creating win-win relationships. I believe that's what it's a part of.
So it's DGRAC. The D stands for desired results. So you write down what are your desired results in different areas: home, family, personal growth, partner support, whatever it is, finances. The G is guidelines. So what are those things that you're going to use to help guide keep you kind of on the path moving forward in those areas? R are resources. So what are some resources that you can turn to? You know, something like friends or family or community, or maybe you have a life coach or whatever it is. Maybe it's a pastor or whatever. What are some of the resources you have to keep you kind of moving forward?
That village.
Yeah, who's your village? A is accountability. So what type of accountability measures can you put in place? You know, maybe an accountability measure is having an honest, you know, conversation every quarter. You know, like you set a special date where you each can just talk about how you experience the other person, how you experience yourself, how you experience the relationship. Something like that can help hold you accountable.
Speaking love languages too.
Yeah.
And, you know, having things out there on a weekly basis that you are willing to do for your partner to speak their love language and vice versa.
Yep, absolutely. And then C is consequences. So, if we are being these people who we say we're going to be, if we're being in alignment, what are some of the things that we're going to create? What are some of the things that are going to happen? Because a consequence is simply a result.
Yes. So it could be we have this fantastic, magical partnership. We make this amount of money in a year and we have this many kids, and it could look like that.
Yeah. And so with the result or with the consequences, talk about the desired results and the undesired results. Because there might be some undesired results. And it's just
maybe we go on our own.
Yeah. Maybe we realize that we don't want to walk together right now. And that could be an undesired result. But we don't have to fear it if we recognize that that's a possibility. And we can both then choose from a place of power and not be victims.
Oof.
Which never works in relationships to go in with that mindset. So we've done the DeGrace, and I'm looking at ours right now. It's in Google Drive. We made an edit a little over a year ago, so probably
due
go
for
back.
Another upgrade.
Yeah. And we look at our things like mission statement and DeGrace, vision boards. We do all sorts of stuff like that, annually or semi-annually.
Yeah, depending on what it is.
Yeah. So we've done that. What are some other? Love languages you mentioned. So we've looked at. We've read the book, The 5 Love Languages. It's a great book.
It is a great book.
Go check
Gary
it
Chapman.
out. Yep, Gary Chapman, 5 Love Languages. It essentially just talks about how we each have different ways in which we enjoy being loved, different things that fill up our tanks. And so he breaks it down into these 5 different love languages. So there's acts of service, there is gifts, there is words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. And so let's say, for example, I think when we went through, one of my love languages is acts of service. And one of your love languages is quality time. So what happens a lot, and I experienced this firsthand, is that my love language is acts of service. So what we do is I will start performing things for you.
Right.
I will perform whatever my love language is for you, assuming that it's also your love language.
Right. So that's a natural thing for people to do.
Yeah.
They do what works for them or what they know to do, what language they speak fluently.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking acts of service. I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing the grocery shopping, whatever. And you're not receiving it.
Right.
You're just like, oh, cool. Where in my mind, I'm like, I'm doing all these things for you. This is how I show you that I love you. What's going on? And then that creates conflict.
Right.
What
Resentment.
And like what I totally was missing was that your love language was different.
Mm.
And so this book is awesome in for you and your partner and whoever is in your relationship to just gain a little bit of understanding of how the other person wants to be loved, and then making a point to love them in that way.
Yeah. Yes. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a key thing in that communication, in that trust building, and putting those emotional deposits in the account. Because here's the thing about trust, right? We keep circling back to trust, because that's what the whole premise kind of sprung out of, is trust isn't stagnant, at least in my experience. Like, trust doesn't just stay at a level forever.
No, it goes up and down.
It flows, yeah. And so
that's why it's great to talk about it like an account, a bank account.
Yeah.
Things go in it, things come out of it.
Right.
You make deposits in a trust account, you make withdrawals from a trust account.
Right. And so it sure is a great idea to do the upfront work of having a lot in there, to have a lot in storage, to have a lot in reserves, because things can be withdrawals one day. And here's the thing too, it changes day to day. We're different day to day. So what might not have bugged you so much one day could be a big explosion another day. So just giving some grace to the thing around trust as well, that it, you have a solid foundation of it, and then it's something that can be added to and withdrawn from just as easily.
Well, we talked about this when we were putting together our notes and things for this episode, and you said that trust is not tied to morality. And you talked about if there is a withdrawal that's made, it doesn't mean that that person is no longer trustworthy.
Right.
You don't have to stick that scarlet letter, that scarlet,
Yep.
UT, untrustworthy, on them. Because with those things happen, like withdrawals happen. I might be cold to you in one moment. It doesn't mean that I'm forever an asshole. It means that for whatever reason, what I was experiencing, what I was going through, I wasn't able to show up powerfully in that
Right.
moment. And so if you're able to uncouple this idea of trust and morality, then you can, it helps you to view it like a bank account, where throughout the day, throughout the week, I can make deposits in your account. I can build up the trust, and there may be withdrawals, and that can look like different things for different people. And, I sometimes like to read Men's Health magazine and skim those articles, and they're always interesting. And one of the things that they're always talking about and giving advice to men, has to do with sex, right?
Of course.
And they'll say that sex begins way before you get into the bedroom. And what they're talking about, in a sense, is making deposits.
Right.
Making deposits in your partner throughout the day, throughout the week, so that, they're built up, the trust is there, their tank is filled, so then it's on and popping.
Emotional foreplay.
Yes. And trust works very similarly.
Yeah.
It does. So what else? We've personal mission statements. We've talked about being able to give and receive feedback, really just working towards continued honest communication, working towards being more bold, having more courage and sharing what you really want to say or what you're really feeling, because that can take time. And to truly tell someone how you feel, truly tell someone, when you do this, I feel this. I experience you as this when you're doing this. That can be very challenging. So we've practiced that over the years, because I did not share a whole lot in the beginning. I kept things in. So we practiced those things. Mission statements to grace, giving and receiving feedback, love languages, really embracing this idea of making the deposits and making a commitment to do that, to make those deposits in one another's tanks throughout the day and throughout the week. What else?
I would say word choice can flow through everything that you just said. So when you talked about sharing feedback, I think over the past few years, things that the ROI has been insane as far as the work we've put in is how we choose to speak to one another. The words that we intentionally use to describe certain things, like what you just said, I experience you as XYZ, not you are this and always and never, and those sort of, some like hyperbolic speak that doesn't really help the situation. Things that just peppers in way more emotionality than is needed to get to the bottom of something or to resolve something or to just get things out there. Definitely get shit out there. Like you need to purge whatever thing isn't serving you. It's better out than in. But just finding healthy ways to explain what that is. So like I said, simple things like, this is how I experience you right now, or, the story I'm running right now. That was a big one for me. Like the story in my mind is blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm not saying this is the only reality or the only truth, but like, this is what's running in my mind right now as a script, as a thing I am wearing on. And this is what it is for me. And this is how it feels. So things like that have helped in our effective communication and trust building.
Also, I think taking personal accountability. We go back to this idea of being a victim. But, really, like I know that you believe in the principle of co-creation. Everything is co-created, right? And so that means you are responsible for your actions, your emotions, the words, and in many, many cases, the situations that you create, the circumstances that you find yourself in, you take responsibility of those things, and so do I. And that creates an incredible amount of trust, because we bypass any types of conversations that have to do with, well, he did this, and well, they did that, and well, my boss did this, and well, it's because the laws are that, whatever it is. We bypass all of that because it's like, no, I created this. I'm responsible for this. And when we do that, we are simply acknowledging our power. That's really what we're doing. We're acknowledging the fact that we are incredibly empowered people, incredibly powerful people, as you are listening right now. And so that's a huge part of being able to have these open and honest and frank conversations. It's, with both parties stepping up and saying, yeah, I'm a co-creator, and, I will absolutely take responsibility for the things I do and say and create in my life.
Yeah. And all of that is personal power upgrade.
Yeah.
And when you have that going, when you are personally empowered with who you are being and who you are, you're actually more mindful of how, where, with whom you spend your energy, you spend your time, and with whom you share your love, and to what extent. Understanding you are abundant in all of that, but also being very wise and intentional with wherever you choose to expend your energy. So, in something like abundant love, you might think that it's just out there, kind of free love. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. And awareness of abundance actually makes you more mindful of the allocation of your abundance, in my experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you have awareness for those things, it's kind of like gratitude. When you practice gratitude, you are creating more awareness around all the different blessings that you have. And so it just magnifies them. And now you start to experience even more blessings. It's that same principle. I love it. One of the last things that I want to talk about, we wrote down here, is that you and I have a high say-do ratio. And so what that means is when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Same for me. And we have a very high say-do ratio. So if there's 100 things I say I'm going to do in a week, or whatever, we're going to do 90% of them. And that means a lot. That means I can trust you. I can trust that when you say you will be there, you're going to be there. You can trust that when I say I will take care of this, I will take care of this. And we use a tool. We've been using this tool for 5+ years, called the balance chart. And it's now on this cool app, the Your Day Balance Game app that we use. And I can go in there and I can see all these different habits that you've selected. And those habits are, they fall into the categories of fitness, lifestyle, and consciousness. So they range from drinking water, which I'm looking at your water right now, to stretching, which we're probably going to do after this, to reading and meditating and lovemaking and journaling, whatever it is. But we hit our numbers every day because each day we've said we're playing for a certain number of points, and we get them. And now the fact that we have that high say-do ratio, like that right there, means that I can trust you.
It impacts everything.
It impacts everything.
Does. And I don't even know how we could fully express or what's the word that I want? I have total mom brain right now, but it's exaggerate. Like, we could not exaggerate in any way how integral something like an app could be in our lives, in terms of everything that we've talked about in this entire conversation. Almost any statement we've made could somehow find little traces of DNA from our experience in that accountability measurement over the past few years. And the Your Day Balance Game itself. So the Your Day Balance Game, aside from the app, is a health and fitness platform powered by love and balance. And so if you look at those 4 elements, health, fitness, love, and balance, they're really the pillars of our lives. And we've really decided to make pillars of our lives. So in the health respect, it's healthy in mind, body, spirit. And in the fitness respect, it's, yes, moving your body in a functional, sustainable way. And balance is creating healthy, sustainable habits and using things like the balance chart. Mm-hmm. And then the love piece, what we're practicing and who we're being as abundant lovers individually and then collectively together. So much of the growth, the breakthroughs, the quantum leaps have been as a result of our immersion in that platform and in that community and in that space of playing for our individual greatness, and then as a result creating something magical together. Absolutely. And it's cool because, if you all
you all can check it out too.
And you can watch us and you can see what we're doing on a daily basis. That's what's pretty cool too. You can actually see what people around you are doing that they say they're doing, but you can see in real time, like, oh, she's going for her runs. Oh, she's doing her stretching. Oh, she's eating salads. Oh, she's meditating. Oh, she's making love. And wait, all of those things combined together can create this sort of experience, this sort of orgasmic, blissful, joyful life experience. I can say yes.
Hell yeah.
I can say yes with full confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're both on the app and everybody can check it out. theydbg.com. Go check it out.
Yeah.
I totally encourage it.
You can follow us. And then we created teams too. So mine is about balanced mamas. So any baby mamas out there who want to be in a group of accountability around balanced habits, you can check that out.
Sweet. I dig it. So, I think we've hit so many things. This was, I don't know. We're getting closer to 2 hours.
Damn.
We talked a lot because there's so much. It was a simple email. It was, on the surface, a simple question. How do you build trust? But man, there's so much in this.
So much to it. There's...
for us, our relationship was very interesting. And, what we're choosing for our relationship right now is amazing. And trust is really, truly at the root. It is in there. So to do a recap of the things that we said that we do to help build and sustain the trust. First, you and I are both playing for our own individual greatness, whatever that looks like for ourselves. We're committed to it, and we know that we can hold one another to that. A mission statement is what we both use to put that sentiment into writing, into words, and we are very comfortable with the other person holding us to living into our mission statement.
And we both are trained and put people through creating their own personal mission statements, in case y'all were wondering. That's basically what I do for a living in my balanced lifestyle coaching. I've helped create many a mission statement, and it seriously lights me up like many things don't. So
you shift people's lives.
It's an amazing process, and it's really profound how just putting a bunch of words to paper like that about who you say you are, what it does. It's incredible.
Yeah. And there's a really amazing process that you take people through that I'm going through right now. And yeah, it's awesome. So playing for our own individual greatness, having a mission statement, degrace, going through the degrace process, writing those things down, getting clear as a unit, you and I saying, these are the results we want. This is what we're looking to create.
Which is basically just an agreement. By entering a partnership, you're making an agreement. And, it might not sound super sexy to some people, which, I get. There sometimes some of the things we're doing in our lives as far as our personal development, I'm like, this isn't the sexiest thing ever. But that's not the point.
You know what's so funny is we will get into an agreement when we rent a car.
Yeah.
We will get into an agreement when we buy a cell phone plan.
Yeah.
We will get into an agreement with somebody we want to start a business with. We will get into agreements all over the fucking place. But when it comes to something that's truly important, truly potentially lifelong, we just want to skip over that shit because we want to, get our dicks wet.
Or it's just going to work. It's going to last forever because you're really cute right now and you drive a nice car and I love you. That's all that we need.
Yes. Like that stuff I get because I did that for 25 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I based my relationships.
Sure.
Who was the most attractive person that would commit to hanging out with me for a little while?
Oof.
And, of course, the results speak for themselves. So what you and I do and have done, and we didn't start out with this stuff.
No.
So if you're out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 5 years in a relationship and I haven't done any of this.
That's cool.
Yeah, like we didn't start out with this, but when it was introduced to us, these ideas from different people, like when these ideas were introduced and this different context of viewing like, wow, you can be very intentional about a relationship. You can create standards within your relationship. Wow, you can have agreements and I can hold you accountable to different things. We were like, hell yeah, because once you do that, you really start to soar. If you look at sports teams, right? Any championship team, every single one of those people are aligned. They have one vision. There's agreement between all of them. There's massive trust between all of them. They are open to giving and receiving feedback. All of the things we talk about is what creates championship teams. It's what creates, amazing things outside of the intimate world. Guess what? Same stuff happens. Same stuff goes down when you apply and bring these things into your intimate relationships.
Boom.
So
you got fired up there for a second, Bivens.
I did.
That was awesome.
I did. So I am incredibly interested in hearing what you all think about this conversation.
I threw this out there earlier before we recorded this, and I'll re-mention it because you probably forgot what I said. And I know it's your show, but I thought, well, put a call out to people if they had any questions about anything that we talked about, particularly abundant love, specific things, no holds barred, that they could send in questions and that we would get back on the mics and answer literally every single question, in a period of time that came through. I'd be open to that.
Yeah. So I think that abundant love will probably do another conversation about it because there's a lot that we can unpack with that.
Right.
I
have a new girl line popped in my mind when Winston is like, just don't be surprised if you get lost in all these nooks and crannies that is Winston's life. And so it just made me think about, of the English muffin that is his life. So like nooks and crannies. Sorry, I had to put that in there.
I had to do it. Well, thank you for that. Boy, I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, so yeah, there's so much to this abundant love stuff. I think there could be a great episode about you and I talking about some of the big breakdowns and breakthroughs that we had, because that's definitely been a thing. So just reach out to me. Yeah, if you have questions about this, trust, love, relationships, abundant love, all of it, hit me up, mattcbivens@gmail.com. It's my personal email address, and I am so interested in hearing what you all think. I want to thank Mark for the email. I mean, dude,
you opened a can of worms there, Mark.
Hell yeah, you did. And it's great. It's great. There's just, I don't know, you just gave me an opportunity to talk about this stuff and firm up a few things. And, you and I just continue to get clarity. And now we realize, oh yeah, let's go check out our degrees because we haven't looked at that in a little while. So I appreciate it, Mark. I appreciate you tremendously. I want to hear your feedback too. So please reach out, everybody. What else you got, babe?
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. This has been awesome, and it's all wonderful. It's all part of the process. So I'm grateful to you for letting me be a part of it.
Cool. I appreciate you coming on and just being bold with me. Coming out, being bold, transparent, sharing all the stuff. And and thank you all for listening too. Appreciate you. My name is Matthew Bivens, and here is to you having it all. Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a guy with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal, physical, or mental health.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.